Hello and welcome to Ditch Witch Diaries. Today we are beginning our second half of this series and we are starting with protection. And we start with two herbs about protection. And so our lovely Raven is going to take it away. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, the as I mentioned with you earlier, I am the magical use I'm going to talk about a lot in like the lore aspect. So when we get to the end, my like discussion on magical use is pretty short, but you can think about magical uses as we go through and like talk about the history and the uses of this plant and the folklore associated with it. So we are doing milk thistle. So pretty. I
I
love milk
love milk
thistle.
thistle. Oh, thistle is so beautiful.
I'm not even a big like purple person, but I
Mhm.
mean this is just a beautiful purple color. Okay. So, I did not look up how to pronounce it. Silybum? Silybum? I don't know.
No, either.
Mary, yeah, Silybum, marianum. So
Marianum?
parts used
Silybum Marianum?
Marianum. Yeah, sounds nice enough.
Marianum? I don't know.
So all the parts are used, but there is like some like, preparation involved typically. So the leaves, you can use the leaves and cook them like you would like collard greens or spinach, but you want to remove the prickly outer parts, kind of like you would a cactus almost. And then the spine, just like with like collard greens, the spines are really thick and like woody, and you don't really want to eat that. I mean, you can, but it wouldn't be pleasant. So you would remove the like spines from the or the yeah, like the middle spiny parts of the leaves, just like you would with
Yeah.
collards. So you can eat the leaves. The inner stalk is good as well. It's supposed to taste a little bit like asparagus from what I found, but you want to remove the like really fibrous, tough outer part. Um, and then the flower heads, you can eat them like artichokes. This is in the same family as artichokes. And I mean, if you look at the picture, if you know what a bloomed artichoke looks like, that's what it looks like. So they're in the same family. So you can, how you would eat an artichoke heart, like you can eat milk thistle as well, just like that, where you would basically cut off the petals that hadn't bloomed yet and then cut off like the little hairs and roast it. You can also eat the dark seeds. So you typically would cut off the head off of their head and then let it dry and then let it dry for a couple of days. And then after a couple of days, when the head's dry, you can just kind of like cut it in half and then shake out the seeds and you can roast it just like you would with like sunflower seeds. And the root, you can eat the root as well. So you can eat the whole thing. There's a lot of other names for it. So St. Mary's thistle, holy thistle, lady's thistle. We'll talk about why those are later. Marianne thistle, Our Lady's thistle, blessed milk thistle, variegated thistle, and wild artichoke. Not to be confused with just artichoke. Okay. So, some correspondences. We have two for a lot of these. So, the elements are both earth and fire, the like grounding and resilience aspect of earth, and the energetic, like strength and protection from fire. Planets are Jupiter for healing. There's a lot of healing qualities
Uh-huh.
to this. So, Jupiter, and then also Mars to bring in that fire and protection. Chakra is the solar plexus and the root. Solar plexus for like the willpower and inner strength. We'll talk about why that is later. And then the root for grounding and protection. So we're in what, like slide 3. We're already seeing a lot of protective qualities with this plant. Signs are Sag because that's Jupiter sign, and also Aries because that's Mars sign. And then with deities, we have the Virgin Mary, Brigid, the Morrigan, Hygeia, which is the Greek goddess of health and hygiene, cleanliness and sanitation. And it's also associated with a Greek god, but I tend to not add those because we don't need no penises in our discussion of plants.
Of
And
course.
then crystals are obsidian, black tourmaline, bloodstone, and amethyst. Very like magical, but also like protective stones. So then let's talk about some correspondences with like the kind of like lore and stuff. So we have Aldebaran, I think is how you say that, is one of the four royal stars of Persia. And so this I kind of went down a rabbit hole with this a little bit, but I'm still a little bit confused on it, I guess. But it's a group of stars that are considered fixed, and these stars, so it's not like a cluster of stars, it's independent stars, and they are seen as the guardians of the four cardinal directions. And so they're associated with powerful archangels, which makes sense because it's like Babylonian astronomy. So they're associated with archangels, moral tests, and fates, like success or downfall, depending on like the person. So these stars were known as the watchers of the four quarters of heaven in ancient Persia and again Babylonian astronomy. So I'm not super well versed about like Persian and Babylonian astronomy, but this is as much as I have found out about it. So it kind of centers around these four stars. And each star marked a seasonal turning point in the year. And so I was going to go into these four stars more, but I didn't since we're not really here to talk about the four stars. But that might be an interesting discussion for a different day,
Definitely.
because I don't know about them, but it seemed pretty interesting. So we're focusing then on Aldebaran. Oh, that's how you say it, right? Aldebaran, which is the Watcher of the East. So the constellation is the Bull, which is our Taurus. Like astrological sign. The magnitude is it's like big magnitude. So one of the brightest stars in the night sky, and it tends to glow like reddish orange. The element is fire. So even though it's an earth sign, right? Taurus is an earth sign, even though it's associated with Taurus, which is an earth sign, this specific star is associated with fire. And the symbolic role is the eye of the bull. So basically, the eye that sees the truth and guards the dawn. So again, we're still seeing protection coming in, even in this kind of like down the line, more type of lore. We're still seeing the protection aspect. And then the archangel guardian is Michael, if you're into archangels and stuff.
If you
What do
are.
they call that? What do they call the working with angels?
I have no idea.
There's a term for that. I cannot remember. Yes, angel working, Enochian magic. That's what the
Enochian.
working with, yeah, when like people work magically with angels, it's called Enochian magic. That's right.
That's like reminds me of that. Every time somebody says that, it reminds me of that um that what's it called? That news news show, that beginning scene to that what is that news show where that guy says the only two things that like America is number one in is
Oh,
percentage
yeah, yeah, yeah.
per
Newsroom or something,
yeah,
I think it's
newsroom
called.
is
Yeah.
percentage of the population that's incarcerated and people that believe in angels.
I never saw that show, but it looked so good just based on like the clips that you see like on
It
social
was good.
media and
I
stuff.
watched the whole thing. It was
Mm,
great. Yeah, that's
nice.
hilarious. So every time I hear angels, I'm just like, okie dokie, artichoke.
Yeah. Okie dokie, Noki.
No, okie dokie. Holy crap, that's
Oh,
hilarious.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, moving on to the next one.
Yeah.
We're still sticking with Aldebaran though. So, Aldebaran itself as the star is linked with honor, victory, fame, leadership, courage, integrity. But then, as I mentioned on the previous slide, it's also like negative aspects of that. So, pride, and like the risk associated with that, falling from greatness, misuse of power. So this is all again with Aldebaran the star. So now milk thistle seeds are often used in powders or incense when people are doing ritual work with the Aldebaran. And so you would pair with Aldebaran election, which I had to look what that means. That just means time, like the specific time that's associated so there's going to be times where Aldebaran is at specific points in the sky, and so you
Yeah.
would pair these herbs that are associated with that star with like the time. And so um anyways, so milk thistle is often used in Aldebaran workings, which again is like associated with power and protection and fire energy and all of this stuff. Um And so then we also have like these two associations with milk thistle paired with Aldebaran. So milk thistle has like spiny leaves, a bold presence, and folk use is often seen as protection, which is then tied to Aldebaran's like strong energy of victory and defiance. And then also purification and transformation. So milk thistle is used in like healing a lot, which we'll talk about later, cleansing, transformation, which also tied to Aldebaran. So again, lots of fire and earth, right? Fire and earth protection and healing is what keeps coming up with milk thistle. So then we have some more lore. So the French occultist, Alif, we've said this before, Alephius, I think. I can't
Levy.
remember. Yeah, Levy. Okay, so let me tell you about this. I did not want to put a lot of information about this, but he basically, in one of his books, would talk about a concoction where he would use the milk from the milk thistle plant and drown, not that he would, but he talks about using the milk from the milk thistle plant and drowning vipers
Oh,
in this milk thistle and then using it for protection. But in the book, he himself says that he considered these abominable and that he would never do it. And he says in the book, we write not to instruct, but to warn. And so he doesn't go into like step by step usage because he didn't want to put that out there in his own words, but he talks about, hey, just so you know, there are like magic that can be used where you take this milk thistle, you drown the vipers in it, and then they do some working with this now kind of like tainted milk thistle. So he talks about that this is what he considers the darkest, most abuse of magic.
hmm.
So he does talk about it, although he seems to be very against it, but there is mention, so I added it. And also as like the vegan, right? I'm not going to talk about killing fucking snakes. So
Before I know, killing animals, that would be bad. I'm
yeah.
getting a sweater, but keep going.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like freaking freezing in here.
It has been raining here. Okay, so then we have, of course, right when you leave, but now we have the lore with the Virgin Mary. So the story goes, as the story goes, as the Virgin Mary fled to Egypt with baby Jesus, she stopped along the road to rest. She was really weary from travel. She was trying to find shelter from the sun because the sun was beating down on her, and she sat beneath a wild thistle. Now, you can't really tell from these pictures, but wild thistles can be very tall. They're very big. They're not going to provide a ton of shade, but they're very tall. So she's trying to find shade from the sun, so she sat beneath a wild thistle. As she nursed the baby, a few drops of her milk fell upon the plant's spiny green leaves. And so it's believed that where the drops of her breast milk touched, delicate white veins appeared, spreading like rivers of light through the dark green surface of the plant. And so from that day on, the plant was marked by her blessing. And I added a picture where you can see like these white
Yeah.
veins.
Yep.
So
That's, there's milk,
people,
there's thistle around, and that's how you know it's milk thistle is because those white
yeah,
veins.
white milky veins. And so then people said that that the plant carried Mary's protection, reminder of purity, motherhood, the power of divine care, like all of these things. And then it said that this information kind of spread through, and so travelers began to keep it near their homes and wearing it, believing that it guarded them against harm, giving like this mother-like protection, especially if you were suffering in some way, which again we see is tying to health and also protection, which is just constantly coming up over and over again. So milk thistle earned its name, said to bear the milk of the Holy Mother herself, a living symbol of nourishment, safety, and grace. So protection, health, protection, health.
There's a lot of that like lore about when Mary fled to Egypt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of herbs that like have stories about that start
Yeah.
long ago when the
Yeah.
Virgin Mary fled to Egypt. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I can think of immediately is rosemary and like she threw
Mm,
her cloak. Well, it used to be white
yeah.
flowers, but then she threw her cloak
Right.
over and it turned to blue flowers.
Yes, and like blood touching it, turning
Yeah.
flowers and things to red, and
Yep.
yeah, lots
Yep.
of
Yep. Yep.
stuff. Gotta love the lore. So then we have Celtic and Scottish lore. Now there's a lot of these. I think I have 2 pages on this, but in Scottish legend, it talks about a Viking raid that was foiled when an invader stepped on a wild thistle, and so um, they're trying like the Vikings are trying to raid this like sleepy town and but one of the Vikings stepped on it. And so because it's really spindly and spiky, it woke he like screamed out and then woke up all of the Scots that were sleeping. And so it kind of thwarted the Viking raid. And so the thistle became a symbol of vigilance and bravery, adopted later as the natural emblem of Scotland. And then so some of these though, we don't really know if it's like common thistle or cotton thistle or milk thistle. Like we don't really know what kind of thistle, but we're including it because it's a thistle. And then for Celtic pagans, the milk thistle, which again, with its like purple crown and its white veins, represented a balance between softness and strength, something that we have talked about numerous times with rose. And it's was also linked to Brigid, the goddess of healing and home. And then the thorny aspect guarded like purity, but milky sap symbolized nurturing and renewal. So again, we have this protection aspect. And then the Celtic people also, it's believed that they admire how the milk thistle grows because it grows kind of like dandelions, where it grows just with nothing. It doesn't need water, doesn't even really need soil. It'll sprout up in between like concrete slabs. It just grows wherever.
Yeah, we
And
have
so it
thistle
said that,
everywhere around here.
yeah, everywhere, right? It's a
Yeah.
quote unquote weed. So it's like a
Not a
symbol of
weed. It's
resilience,
not a
where
weed. Like there are no
weed.
weeds. What are you talking about? Weed.
Weeds. We
Exactly.
love weeds.
We do. That's why we're ditch witches. I will
Yeah.
climb down in that ditch
Climb
with
out of that car, get in that
you.
ditch. Oh, is this sage?
Pull
Ooh. Oh,
over.
is this milk thistle? Ooh.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is this rosemary? Ooh.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so like to stand tall and steadfast in like the face of adversity. Yeah, and so again, like thriving when you shouldn't be thriving and things like that. Just hardiness. And then we also see that it became a symbol of the protective warrior aspect of the feminine, a plant that shields the heart while guarding spiritual integrity, just like the Morrigan, who we know is Celtic. And so this is how she is connected with milk thistle then, because um, the Morgan is tied to plants that are seen as like really protective plants because if our viewers aren't familiar, the Morgan is the goddess of war, one of the goddesses of war. She's like the Celtic goddess of war and like prophecy, transformation, bringing of the death, washing at the ford, all of these things. And so she's fiercely protective when needed, but also like is not afraid to like fucking push you in like a thorny plant if you need that push and that oomph. And so, bringing in again protection, beautiful tied with the femininity, but also like kind of harsh, tying in with this like fierceness of the masculinity, which is why we see the spiny leaves and the thorns paired with this like beautiful purple flower head. So it teaches respect, discernment, and necessity of defending sacred ground. And then we have florography, which is the Victorian flower language, if you're not familiar with that. So milk thistle is used or was used to symbolize pride, defiance, which I love, and nobility of character. Because again, if it's like thorned exterior, super incredibly medicinal, and also like the soft, delicate, beautiful purple flowers on top. Okay, so let's go into medicinal. So, cholagogue, galactagogue, demulcent, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and then membrane stabilizing, which I didn't really like seeing come up. I don't know if there's a more kind of scientific term for that, but I thought that was cool. So the main component, the main like medicinal component, also we're not doctors, right? Milk thistle is probably safe to eat, but like don't come at us. If
You know what?
it's
Milk thistle is, I'll tell you, like a lot of herbs that we talk about,
Mhm.
people take milk thistle, and I'll tell you, and you're probably going to go over it for their liver.
Mm.
And they take
Yeah.
it for a long time. Like they put it in,
Hmm.
like they just take it regularly. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, like most herbs, it should only be taken for like a discrete period of time, and then you should give yourself a break. And then you can
Hmm.
take it again. But milk thistle is one of them. It can actually like work the opposite way if you take it all the time. It can like
Yeah.
irritate your and eat like irritate you and not
Hmm.
be and have the opposite effect. So it's not like an herb. The only herbs that you should really be able to take all there's some herbs that you should be able to take all the time. And I forgot the name of them, but like it's like oat straw you can take all
I
the
was just gonna
time.
say oat straw,
Yeah, there's
probably.
like a
Yeah.
couple of them that you can take all the time and you don't and I forget dang it, why can't I remember the name of those? I'll figure it out and I will come back to you because it'll come to me when I'm like not wanting it to. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, medical discretion, right, is
yeah,
advised. So,
exactly.
the main medicinal component of milk thistle is, God, flavin olganins. And there's a bunch of them, but kind of together they're called Silymarin, which is where the name comes from, the Latin name.
Uh-huh.
And it can be found all over the plant, but mostly in the seeds. There's a little bit in the root, there's a little bit in the flower head, there's a little bit more in the leaves, but it's mostly in the seeds. So, Silymarin is the compounds that like make up this thing are these. I'm not even going to try to say them, but there they are. And so these are believed to be responsible for like the vast majority of the medicinal effects of it. So, so let's get into some medical uses. Now, in European folk magic, it's seen as protection from snake bites. And so if you got bit by a venomous snake, a lot of times they would make a poultice out of milk thistle, including the ground seeds and also like sometimes the sappy milk. So it was widely believed to offer protection against snake bites, venom, and poison. And then herbal, like old school herbal texts from the 16th and 17th centuries describe milk thistle as a plant that could draw out toxins and protect the liver from venomous influence. And so, oh yeah, as I said, they would grind the seeds into a poultice and either put that as a poultice on the skin or drink it as like a decoction, especially preventatively, where like if they know that they have to walk through really heavy snake-laden fields, they would like kind of prepare their body to potentially be bitten. Now,
Uh-huh.
modern research. So modern research shows that milk thistle and like this silymarin that they do seem to offer protective effects against things like poisons and like snake venom especially. And so in the lab, it looks like these compounds do protect against poisons, including snake venoms. However, there hasn't been any clinical trials conducted. So like on paper, this should work, but it hasn't actually been tested like out in the real world. So if you get bitten by a viper, like go to the freaking doctor, right?
Heck yeah. Oh my God.
Let me
Let's
just make a
start.
poultice real quick as my leg is
Yeah,
swollen like a balloon.
exactly.
I mean, you could potentially, like, if you're going hiking and there might be snakes there, sure, like
While
drink a
you are on
concoction.
your
But
way to the
yeah,
doctor,
yeah, or
the
like
emergency
have it
room, like
pre-made. Yeah, but
exactly.
like go to the doctor. So then Culpeper recommended it for jaundice, which again,
You
if you have
got like
jaundice.
lower volume all of a sudden. How weird.
Oh, really? Hmm.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Sounds the same on my end. Turn it up a little bit.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
So nice. It's seen as an antidote for poisoning by the death cap mushroom, which we love. We love our amanitas. But again, like it's a serious thing. Go to the doctor, okay? Go to the doctor.
Yeah.
But potentially, like it on the way to going to the doctor or while you're calling for an ambulance, if you eat a death cap, then maybe, yeah, put like drink a
On the way.
concoction if it's prepared. But
Exactly.
yeah.
On the way to the hospital.
Just like eating amanitas and be like, oh, it's fine, I'll drink this decoction. Like, no. Okay, so then let's talk about liver protection and regeneration. Now, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with this. I usually don't spend too much time on the medicinal things, but I've found a lot of research articles on these. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's lots of stuff. So primary use in like liver protection, supporting liver function, protecting against damage from toxins, alcohol, medicines, and diseases. So it acts as a really potent antioxidant, which we know antioxidants reduce like free radical damage, especially to specific parts of the body. This one focuses typically on liver cells. It also promotes protein synthesis, and so therefore it helps your liver kind of regenerate. Um, and it prevents toxins from binding to liver cells. So, really good for liver. And clinical trials have shown to be beneficial for this, especially for things like hepatitis and like fatty liver disease, and then certain toxins like the mushroom. Um, so we do find that it's the evidence is the strongest for liver protection, but like, can it actually reverse all these things? There's some mixed, but like taking it kind of preemptively is does seem to be beneficial. We do have some research on this. As Rebecca was saying, though, like this is not something you want to drink every day or like consume every day because like you're like, ah, just in case you, it's short term, just like most of the herbs we work with. So we do also find some detoxification support. Now, I don't know about you, but when something says it detoxifies your body, I'm like, "Ooh," like it just seems as like a, but what does that mean, right? Like,
Well,
what
we
does that
have like our
mean?
body has mechanisms to detoxify
Yeah,
itself. Like our
yeah,
liver, maybe this is because it of the liver. The liver and
liver,
the
yeah,
kidneys
yeah,
are
yeah.
both like, you know,
Yeah. But like when it's like, oh, drink this drink, it'll detoxify you. And I'm like, oh, I don't know
okay.
though.
I don't
But it
know.
does seem to have like detox like properties because it does help support the liver, which is a big
Yes.
detoxification component.
Yeah.
So it doesn't directly detox the body, but it helps with our body's natural detoxification, like enzymes. And then we also have, hold on, I have to feed my wild pets. Hi.
Your vile pets.
My little wild pets. And it's raining and they don't come in the winter because they kind of like hibernate a bit. So I'm feeding them a lot now. Okay, so antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. So we find that this compound that's big in this plant has been shown to reduce inflammation and oxidative stress, not just in the liver, especially in the liver, but other places as well. And so research supports that it might help the kidneys, the pancreas, and the skin. So some added benefit, again, primarily works with the liver, but maybe some other aspects as well. And there's some research on it with protecting against cancer. So very early research. This is in like animal studies mostly, but it suggests that this compound can slow the growth of certain cancer cells and like enhance chemotherapy tolerance, especially the liver. So again, protective for the liver. And I keep talking about protection, right? Protective, 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 which means that magically we're going to be using this for protection because, as we've mentioned before, the medicinal uses are directly related oftentimes to the magical
I,
uses. So
I
very
agree.
protective.
And I think
Yeah.
like it's a big problem when people don't want to know about the
I
medical or
agree.
medicinal uses and they
Yeah.
just because then you get into the situation where people are just like we've been in, me and you both have been in, where people are just
Hmm.
grabbing at things on a wall and throwing them
Yes.
all together just by like
Just grab what fits, what calls
and so
out to you.
now
Like,
there's like
okay.
30 different herbs like in a pot that
Hmm.
you don't even know if they should all be burnt or burned together. You're just
Yeah.
it's
It's a
like a
nightmare.
free for all. And who knows
Yeah.
if all those people are I don't know. It's just
Hmm.
you don't know
It's
what's
just
going in. Yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like it's, and I've been talking to one of my friends who's like just kind of, he does like magical stuff, but he doesn't really work with plants very much, but he's like just dipping his toe in the water with it.
Mhm.
And um, so we were having conversations about this where it's like, even if you're not planning on using it medicinally, even if you're not planning on ingesting it
Yeah.
or even necessarily like rubbing it, But I feel like one, the medicinal uses so often and for like every plant that we've worked with at least is overlapping with the magical uses. Like that's
Yeah,
how we
of
know the
course.
magical use is because of this research-backed medicinal use. Like that's how we know. But also I feel like not taking time to learn about the medicinal aspect of a plant at all. Like you don't have to know all the nitty-gritties and all the names of the compounds, but to completely ignore that aspect of it is almost like disrespectful to the plant, I think.
It is.
Because
And
like,
the people that used it too, as we're going to find in
yeah,
my herb. It's like, it's
yeah,
highly disrespectful to like,
yeah,
I feel like it's, you have to know, you just have to give, yeah, the
yeah.
respect
It's
to the
like,
plant.
yeah, it's like when you're meeting somebody and like you, I don't know, want them to help you with something, but like you don't want to take the time to get to know them. Like you just want them to give you like what they can. It's like, how rude, you know? Like just
Exactly.
disrespectful.
Exactly. I agree.
So crazy. So, okay, so again, my magical uses is pretty short since I feel like a lot of this lecture is about the like
Yeah.
potential medicinal or magical uses. But Jupiter in the liver, so thought to be a Jupiter plant, again, because it's tall and imposing and it's healing, and Jupiter is heavily associated with health. Um, and also, so a lot of people think it's Mars, which is fair. I get that, very fiery. But with Jupiter and healing, because the plant is so healing, I align with the Jupiter. But also, the liver is considered the seat of anger, like in traditional in TCM. And so, some practitioners believe that wearing milk thistle can like potentiate anger, which again ties heavily into protection, I think, right? Like sometimes you can't be soft and gentle when you're trying to protect something. Sometimes you have to stand your fucking ground and get angry and like do what needs to be done in order to protect your space or protect yourself or whatever, which I feel like is heavily associated with anger. Because again, sometimes you got to get angry to get it done. And the liver is associated with anger. And milk thistle is like the main focus is the liver. And so we have like a beautiful, again, protective quality of milk thistle.
Love that.
Yeah, so good. And then also this like protection from serpent energy. And so snakes, we haven't really talked about animals a lot, but sometimes when you go back into like magical texts, they'll talk about protection from snakes and snake bites, which can be like physical snakes, but it can also be anything that's like deceitful or like some type of hidden danger coming through the grass, like in a sneaky way. And so milk thistle is believed to protect against like physical venomous snakes, but also kind of like these spiritual snakes in like a negative way. Um, and some people have burned milk thistle, especially the seeds, but also just the plant with salt and garlic for like protective charms. Then they'll take the ash and put it in like a protective charm. And then in rural Britain and Ireland, thistle seeds were carried in a pouch for warding off what they called creeping evil, which could be a disease, it could be envy, like the evil eye, or like any type of negative magic or sorcery. So then my personal take is basically like anything that's sharp and pokey is good for protection. The sharper the better. And milk thistle is very pokey and sharp. But also, again, the tie to the liver and the tied with like the protection and the tie with the Aldebaran star that we talked about. And everything about milk thistle comes back to health and protection. Yeah, I think that this is like a great protective plant because it's so protective from a health standpoint and just from like the lore associated with it, especially with the Morgan, who I have a relationship with, and all of these things. So that's my milk thistle. And then here's my sources. I actually remember to add them. And just so you know the rabbit hole I went down, these one, two, three, four, five, six are all for they're all documents, like medicinal research documents for the
Huh.
medicinal health of it.
Nice.
And then the rest are like for the magical and the lore and stuff.
Nice.
And that's it.
Awesome.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you for joining us. And that is such, I love that. You know what? That's
Mm.
milk thistle wasn't even on my radar. So I'm
Mm.
excited that you like brought that up. Yay, I know.
Yay.
And I hope you guys all enjoyed it as much as I did. And we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.